The Curiosest Day, Part 1. Chapter 1. Since dawning on tire yard principles, bakers have wept 1,000,000 frogs onto the parchment of elders. Inside beefy caverns, taken brows are tide swept like flailing paste pouring from the upturned noses of severed ping-pong bishops. With shark flumps gang-bred in the dumpling sauna, it reeked of the pious pastes of Christmas, despite Trojans sweeping away the radioactive dribble flung mercifully from forests of almighty bogey filters. Chapter 2. Blown into tissues like salvaged recitals of gumboil excess and dental chagrin, melted flag was the only product of this glamorous proboscis, all glitter crust with martial arts porridge lapping at the base, as though kicking phallic nut bombs with smooth automated precision. It landed for 50 points and said, "I am pi r squared, for I am the area of the circle of life," full of cherries and slathered in cocky custard like some branched idiot lacking the essential notion of salvation. Mercy was the last discourse of the legions of rejected crab massacre, climbed 3 stories, and leapt to the kingdom of Stilton brogues. Chapter 3. It is precisely glitch egg for the coroner, which is what is, and the not are too, and it will make $1,000,000 for a good causeway. Plankton smeared on the till would be the outer margin of tolerance. Silver moon lassoed into whipping stilts calibrates the interior. The frame carved from the faces of narcotic patisserie surgeons. Chapter 4. With great hope I dipped my left leg in, and it rots with regard for instantaneous cripple fusion. Expectation is notwithstanding, as though severing aortic mammary obsession and flipping pricks like yesterday's wanking slob. You've made slumps occur, trolled toss made up like salad raids on a tank tucker. Forestry for gash tumors, in icicle mounts socking granular toil for righteous boosts, imparting the ridge to form the partridge bridge, mal-equipped for springtime rejection. Sell-out salt forms in lieu of carboniferous crimping gimbals, trowel for daisies, all sparked like Eskimos squirting bilious pellets onto fabulous balls of creation, as floundered pink maize searches for the treats served in isolated grommet rooms. Crossed for pathos, right to left. No skin meant thermal star jumps waved finds which the occult had imbrued. Leg rumors, every man there. Waves of seconded marshes only 7th in line for canine idioms. Chapter 5. Sink scrumptious land to dip bread as if it were a coil-tapped electrode. Brainwashed factions of raging, sorrowed tramps burnt in Gideon vestibules, huddled and ganged like a peregrine dove program of wart-slingers. Each soul slime-dangled for 6 long gravy-soaked hours, until crack-atrophied Martians eat a seeded cob off the rail pimp. Chapter 6. Frowned for Sicilian nocturnes, apprentices of foiled bastard sauce, licked by the devil's grocery butcher, came heavily down like megaton of stewed astral lint, chive roasted like pitiable synergy bovril, drunken whole and slaked of its mallows. Never again should crockery labels bunk with a black-red celestial cartouche, nor salvage mortuary rings to turn fingers into the longest days of man's only ever illumination. For any man siphoning cog ratios from isometric horn bubbles will be ramshackle bent, like idealized sausages emerging from carpentry stasis. Chapter 7. You've made slumps occur, braided like nun fesseries dripping in a dreadful blue leper oil, derived of forestry for fondant-filled fungal facial fissures, expelling end-time cabling from bursting pores for a pressurized annual megalodon broth party. And for once, they ride like eagles, saving any nonchalance for the breath with which they pass the gates of morbid evermore. Oh, this morbid cloth was explained all right. Chapter 8. Explanations in Science. Curvature in instances of semi-lagoon barter reality meant salve-optional camping rations were entrenched like tusks on the hearing aids of colonial masticators. Gambling weight on powdered bells was the way to collect force, and termite encryption meant subjugating the aural projectile. So sticks made excellent ways of prospecting table chalk assimilators. And a verged or beveled euphonium melody would heighten the result by a factor of 3, of which 9 with bonus quark staples. Muffed in the traditional seance with a Basingstoke parlour rag, and Providence laid its own special darkened POC recourse. For the purpose of essential gland refills, asinine green is torn into burglar red, and the amalgamated shreds piled luxuriously into the third rebel chest. Men have tried over generations with clamp, dig, pod, static minion, and more seventh dogs. Belonging to the tertiary gaggle branch, they winced perpetually like a piano swing with Lineker charm juice smeared offensively across its middle pedal. Resulting oneself from this toppled camshaft was all to do, and many to do it with whatever you liked from the catalogue. Even straw, baked in domestic Edam litter basket, can polyoblongate amongst vicious recycled bilge motors. Sacrament was the only key to unlock this passive door into the void of impenetrable plant shit, with Berger taking a shower all day until its ear expels foams of pure hate. Chapter 9. In the shadowy ox helmet, he felt like a welt made in cheese by plutonium marble launchers. 7 eons and swans had passed since regulation battery became that obtuse law, pigeon enforcement notwithstanding, for municipal blaster test. Lyrically sound air-rated Delta Pygmies were overjoyed at his word. 7 eons notwithstanding, pigeon notwithstanding. Enforcement issues daubed in rotary ectoplasm siphoned from anal varnish ministers. Chapter 10. This buffoon of a raisin, the poor semblance of doctor's pudding, tapped by a year-stroke before proto-rectal incision, goes on to estimate remaining Swiss fractions. Alas, no decision, no incision. By proxy, multitudes made inspirational government school boxes exceptionally starring beyond the point of autism. Anti-hypothetical mutant races with awesome power and gross annual intellect of 10-inch balloons, then attacked with juicy crocodiles in abstract semtex geometry. Making stiff-heeled cock of the plasma machine, beef machine, and entrancing the medieval steering wheel. Marcus existentialis derived and genome-manipulated from giant's shite, extracted by anal sump, has been used to assimilate beacons of anguish meltings, forming a rigid polytube only in face sake. Marked against maximum penguin projection abstracts, deft wicks of patented shame burn lightly along its base, while the blue radio lube of Gomorrah invigorates malignant isotopes. Charmed flagellations of bioconduits conduct business-end sweeps for robo-dildonic fascinators. This essential function allows the SAMS to capacitate flavor crystals and convert it into existential blame. The resulting aborted Mong mittens, best in the business, float utility drafts on 7 exponential dog rhythms for the first time ever. This is the most powerful level Dwayne pipe in the world. Crabnab, self-elf, and other rhyming items are croaked vicariously through the patented triple cam fascinator, marked as bod and rented out in lieu of spaghetti cunt patterns. Chapter 11. There was only one coded clue. And to make less compelling grove-stricken manifold all greener, sink-plunging mysteries bereft of a plumb-line soil rent emphatically scored chief with rape, dosed for 8 centuries of shaving and toilet. He laid and swam his way through the uppermost shit brine of smash-graded isotopes, with fucking Ribena tramp officials in lieu of cutting, forgetting it cleaner. Rubbish Pile's tower. He caught up with Slapkins and made him an engine. He caught up with Rabbit, and on him the big beard's box staffs made the right bum rags decision, leaving their bodies with not spelling with hammy demeanor. Symbian gobbled 10-centered compartment of elders who queried chief on a steak for breakfast and turf. Lieu of a beef, a million or one? Decide with your teeth, O bivouacked bacon Eskimos. Derive like without science. But Le Louvre incident brackets, hereto unforsaken, what are all the primed for felling track-riding Gideons of Marzipan oeuvre? 12 insane rashes spray old man Doogie with a stupid herring. It was senseless and endless, but this was an inviting path. It went straight and deep and darkened at a point much closer than normal visual perspective would have had you imagine. Thick with old trees, or extremely efficient and thick-set young ones. The course was rough and grimly lit, but pretty. Dynamic puffed foams of dark, rich green billowed atop stiff celestiotropic titans that seemed unusually bare of branches, with not so much as a hint of a tangent from its skyward poke before eyes were to reach canopy. Verily, these were imposing vertical columns topped with a lustrous headgear of foliage. Looking skyward still, the uneven surface brought me to as I stumbled a little. And now, it is now. Chapter 12. I knew how I had gotten to this point, metaphorically and literally. Both versions were boring, and I wanted to forge a converged path. I didn't know at the time, but I hadn't even chosen to come here. I just did. Because now, it is now. I walked, setting down the path. Stones were kicking up as I walked, and as I aimed for the darkest point of the murk, the light followed me in. Chapter 13. Factories flaking cobbles of non-penis variants once walked down roads on marathon hump jaunts of dizzying disproportion. So well did they ride metric tannery that leather emerged from that insidious gloop in imperial neon overtones. For life. One called the other a guy. Christmas Charlie was sad. Minuscule elven pickles stuffed vulgarly under his eyelid of choice. He first chose wisely in common contextual usage, but his gamble gave rise to marching orders to dive bomb the queers. Politicizing insidious muff boundaries was militarily imperative, insofar as survival at the hilt of the cargo rhinos, which they used and flagellated to transport the patented phantasms of gilded savagery. Chapter 14. Lest transient differentiation chomp the brats, drooling fevered slop onto the uprising Kenyan plankton such that it stamps and wriggles like a portion of foxy salt. We should hide ovaries in microwaved vaults of excess skin bricks. It is my dream, my wish, and my command. Right-wing poultry suits of garnered fetish weren't loaned to the fizzy scapula. Not a single clunk was flayed despite bags designed for punk training vomit being placed with auspicious starry-eyed wonder about the civic mess dome. And it is no subsequent wonder. Golden and crisp and slathered in wretched pig oil like a stabbed goiter in the bin. Chapter 15. It might never be discovered how grime occasioned itself into massive gift trajectories, usurping cocoa addict solids from the head position. Tanks bleed fog for the sole purpose of preserving damp blocks twisted into shit knots under the watch of a chronic pain helmet. Chins wagged like diabolical butts escaping their duty to block erroneous test tubes of filtered girl waste. And lamps got laid, akin to the grievances of shit margarine alliances the world over. Chapter 16. Fatalism. Gladly were named sour wretches bathing in overtones, slick and marvelous. pampered thalidomide entities gavoted beyond withered approaches to the 8th paragraph of the physics-in-law's balmy tome. It descended like the greyest clown at the state ancestry ball, the bollock of relish suspended for all its cowl and mockery. Pangs of silly exoguilt with rich, unclouded interior gall make mazed turds of dietary portions. Make it so that ciphers gain quantities of leechmen, the shiny globules of pus that they are. Make purveyance insipid unto the king of mortification slabs. And it was fine. Such as sugary buttress columns earn prizes in the diseased lobes of bloated grot. And death was the only proxy.